The further is a realm filled with tortured souls of the dead. Though gifted individuals can astral project there, the only problem, turns out dead people kinda suck.
Get away from me!
There are demons there too, often hiding behind red doors. Like Insidious Chapter 3, The Last Key is another prequel. It takes place 3 years after 3 and leads directly into Chapter 1. It also tells us a lot more about psychic Elise Rainier's origins. Like the first 3, it was written by Leigh Whannell, but directed by newcomer to the franchise Adam Robitel. The first 2 were helmed by James Wan, before Whannell made his directorial debut with 3. The producers offered him this movie, but he was worried it would take attention away from his original sci-fi film, Upgrade, which at the time was being called STEM. Whannell was still heavily involved in The Last Key. Of course, he wrote it, he was in it playing Specs again, and he was heavily involved as a producer, offering Robitel guidance to ensure he captured that Insidious spirit. How did Robitel get involved? He and Lynn Shay, who plays Elise Rainier, had acted together previously and were good friends, as opposed to me and Lynn Shay, who are terrible friends. We've never even met. Through her, he knew James Wan and got some advice on his own directorial debut, 2014's The Taking of Deborah Logan, a found-footage possession movie. Wan publicly supported that movie after it came out, and Robitel's name was tossed in the ring after Whannell stepped away. He still had to make his pitch and prove himself, especially after only showing he could do found footage. He felt pressure to show he could do a more conventional movie too, so apparently he went all out, even making an animated storyboard. The initial script he received also didn't include a big bad of any kind, no lipstick-faced demon or man who can't breathe. So, Robitel pitched a demon with key fingers, and Whannell was like, "What's so scary about that? I mean, sure, he's got keys for fingers, but he can breathe just fine. My demon couldn't even breathe." And Robitel was like, "Sure he can breathe," through the keyhole on his face, and Whannell was like, The keyhole for a face idea is somewhat present in the final creature design, with his lack of a nose creating a big hole for his mouth and nasal passages, but the original design by concept artist Jacob Hare made it a lot clearer. To be fair, this might have looked a little too absurd in live action. The movie opens in Five Keys, New Mexico, 1953, at the Dew Bend State Penitentiary, where Gerald Rainier, the assistant warden, lives nearby on the prison compound with his family, his wife Audrey, and children, Elise and her younger brother Christian. He is an abusive father. We know that because we first meet him sitting on his chair in front of the TV, drinking stoically. You always got to look out for stoic drinkers. They are not to be trusted. When the lights dim for a moment, thanks to a certain electric chair taxing the power grid, Christian is quite tickled by it.
They're frying someone, Pop! You're on the Hades Express, mister!
Gerald chides his son. Death is nothing to celebrate. And Elise shows her psychic powers have already manifested at this young age. She's drawing a picture of the now dead prisoner and shares some details.
His name was Wayne Fisher. He was 32 years old and he killed a lady with a hammer. He had a ribeye for his last meal. He's been on death row at Dubin for 3 years. And his last words were, "Go to hell."
Gerald threateningly stands up, but Audrey quickly steps in and tells the kids to brush their teeth and go to bed. Upstairs, Audrey finds a mess of toys on the floor. "But it wasn't me," Elise assures. "It was the ghost boy who loves playing with our toys." Audrey believes her. She tells Elise she's blessed with a special gift, which scares some people, including her father. From now on, just keep it between us. Finally, time for bed. But Christian is scared of the dark, until Mom reminds him about the whistle around his neck, the one she gave him to blow if he ever gets scared and needs her. There are a lot of cliches flying around in this opening sequence, which isn't necessarily an issue, but it is disappointing to take such a great character, Elise Rainier, and finally delve into her past to reveal childhood trauma. She was abused for her gift, the most expected possible answer to her mysterious past. None of the flashback feels authentic. If the father so detests any whiff of psychic ability or other hokum, why is Elise so cavalier about drawing executions and describing those those details in front of him? Why has this conversation with Mom about keeping her gift secret only happening for the first time now? If the idea is that this has never happened before and it's the first time her gift manifests, why is Elise herself so chill about it? Wouldn't a child be freaked out if suddenly they had front row tickets to the electric chair? It all feels less like a real window into a family with pre-existing dynamics between them and more like a curated flashback, inorganically cramming in the key facts we need to understand from a prequel standpoint. Though one improvement over the flashback from Chapter 2, at least they allow the child actor to use her own voice rather than having Lynn Shay dub over with her own. Actually, maybe that would have been kind of awesome. A little girl opens her mouth and the voice of a 70-year-old comes out of it.
Elise, thought I told you to put all these toys away.
It wasn't me who made this mess.
Then who was it?
It was the little boy. He lived here a long time ago, and he loves playing with our toys. I swear. I guess she's a heavy smoker in my scenario, or possibly demonic. Once the lights are out, Elise asks her brother if he ever thinks about the people who go to the electric chair. Does he ever wonder where they go after it's done?
No, I know where they go. Oh yeah, where? They go into the dark.
It's around then she notices Christian is no longer in the bunk above her. He's sleeping in the chair across the room. So who is that whispering to her from above? She checks the bed, no one there. Jump scare, giggling boy runs by in the background. I don't love relying on a jump scare this early in the movie. I also hate the giggling child trope, similar to the spring-loaded cat trope, where every time a cat shows up in a horror movie, it has to be launching across the screen with a loud hiss or screeching noise. Elise approaches the ghost boy now hiding in the closet and asks if he's the one who made the mess. He whispers, yes. Naturally, Elise chatting with a ghost frightens Christian, so he hides in his blanket fort and reaches for that whistle. Except it's gone. Elise tries to coax Ghost Boy out of the closet, while Christian begs her to stop. She asks again for the ghost to come out, except he whispers, I'm not in the closet. Jump scare, what appears to be a demon in a luchador mask next to Christian, and a loud screeching noise as it blows the whistle in his ear. Another jump scare following the same template as the one from 2 minutes ago. There's a ghost above me. Actually, it's over there. There's a ghost in the closet. Actually, it's over there. Christian's frightened screams attract the attention of Gerald and his cane. He tells Elise to put her hands on the wall. He asks if she saw a ghost, and she gives the wrong answer. Yes. He tells her to just say no and asks again. Again, she defies him. There are ghosts all over this house, and she sees them. He hits her, and he locks her in the basement as punishment, which admittedly was disturbing, in the way it's always disturbing to see a defenseless child pleading with their abuser. In the dark basement, she cranks the generator to get some light, but after a loud bang, the lights go out, and generic spooky child voice asks,
Are you scared of the dark?
Elise asks, who's there? Cue generic spooky giggle. Spooky child tells her not to be afraid. I can make it light. And light shines through a keyhole that appears in the wall. The child asks why Elise is down here, and she answers, Daddy put me here.
Your daddy doesn't treat you right. Open this door. There'll be lots of light. Go on, open it.
There's a key hanging up right there. You're the only one that can open the door.
You are more powerful than you know. I want you to help me open all the doors.
I can almost buy that young Elise would be dumb enough to open the door, except when the demon makes the classic mistake of saying something out loud they should have kept to themselves. First, she tells Elise she can open the door to let in some light. Okay, maybe Elise can get behind that. It is pretty dark down here after all. But then the demon keeps going. You'll help me open all the doors. And that's when even a child would be like, wait, what doors? And that's when the demon is like, wait, did I say that part about the doors out loud? We've all been there.
Rolling at 9, punch out at 5. That's the plan. They don't suspect a thing. Well, off to the plant, then to the Duff Brewery. Uh-oh. Did I say that or just think it?
This is also when Elise should be thinking, where does this door go exactly? When I peek through the keyhole, it looks like a creepy hallway. Not sure that's any better than my creepy basement, and she's well aware ghosts can be deceptive, considering not 5 minutes ago one of them played hide and seek with her upstairs and terrorized her brother. It would be more believable if the demon showed her something awesome, like open this door and I'll give you a new PlayStation, instead of open this door for a creepy hallway, albeit slightly brighter than the creepy basement. This demon is almost as bad as Pennywise at enticing children. Come, join the clowns, you'll float down here. We all float down here. Yes, every child's dream, to float in a sewer. So Elise sticks the key in the hole before it turns itself and falls to the ground, before a hand reaches out from behind the door, and that key, really this demon's finger, reattaches itself. It creepily runs its hand along the door, sparks forming as it does, and as the door creaks open, Elise's eyes roll into the back of her head. Lights in the house flicker. Audrey senses something is wrong and heads to the basement. She finds her daughter standing in front of a wall, unresponsive. A wire reaches down from the ceiling to curl around Audrey's neck. It hangs her. When Gerald gets to the basement, Audrey falls, and so does Elise. Only one of them lives. In the present, 2010, Elise wakes from a nightmare of this memory, the memory of how she inadvertently killed her mother. The implication is that this demon was trapped in the further like most demons, but it found Elise, a powerful psychic, powerful enough to open the door and let it out. So it manipulated, strong word, it kindly asked her to open the door. Doing so gave it some ability to interact with the physical world, and as its first order of business, it killed her mom. I like the creature design. Even before we've seen the thing's face, the key for a finger is a memorable image, and so are the sparks it causes, connecting it to the electric chair motif, which acts as Elise's introduction to the world of death that will overshadow much of her life. After waking from the nightmare, Elise writes in her notebook next to a sketch of the demon, "Give me the key?" Which feels disconnected to anything we saw because the demon never said, "Give me the key," or anything like that. In fact, the demon gave Elise the key and asked her to open the door. Downstairs, Elise finds Tucker and Specs up to their usual antics. Tucker has taken it upon himself to automate the lights in her house, but get this, it doesn't work reliably.
And the lights. The lights? Lights!
I've generally enjoyed Tucker and Specs, especially when the humor comes from banter and bickering. That's funny, but not over the top. With more of a presence in this movie, though, they're forced to find more material, and it does start to feel sitcom-y. But it is nice to see they're staying at the house with Elise, and it's fun seeing how, despite their antics, she loves having them around. It's especially nice after the last movie emphasized how alone she is in the house after her husband passed. With Tucker and Specs around, it's less lonely. Later that morning, they get a call from a man who needs help. Ted Garza recently bought a house, and paranormal things are happening there. The crazy thing? That house is located at 414 Apple Tree Road, 5 Keys, New Mexico. In the movie's official synopsis, they call it 413 Apple Tree Road, but in the movie, they say 414. So, yeah. Anyway. It's the house Elise grew up in, is the point. So she tells Garza she can't help him. She's got too much trauma there. But like Rocky or Creed, who start every movie retired or thinking about retiring, you know they're putting the gloves back on. Or like Insidious Chapter 3, when Elise says, "I can't help you," you know she's putting the gas mask back on. You know from the seance in the first movie, how come that thing never showed up again? I like that thing. Also, this movie has a ton of deleted scenes, close to 20 minutes worth, and one of them lands here. Specs overhears the end of Elise's call, and he's like, "Did you just turn down a job? We need the money. We're barely making ends meet." And Elise shuts him down. It also would have contained a continuity error.
"We haven't had a job since Quinn, and that was months ago."
Except the Quinn case from Insidious 3 took place in 2007, and the end of this movie will reveal it takes place right before 1 in 2010. I suspect they originally planned for this movie to take place shortly after Chapter 3, but decided later on in the process that it'd be more fun for the audience if it had a direct tie into the original. So it still takes place after 3, but now a few years later instead of just a few months. That night, she tells Tucker and Specs about the call and all the trauma she faced in that old house, how her father tried to beat the psychic out of her, and how Mom was killed by something Elise released. She's got to go back and face this thing, but she can't ask them to join her. There's also another deleted scene here. Elise wakes up in the middle of the night, stalked by glimpses of the key demon. It's essentially her stumbling around the house for a few minutes. It goes on way too long, and I assume even if it was included, it would have been cut down. It ends with a jump scare of Keyface appearing behind her after whispering, "I am Key." Man, this demon can't decide what the hell's going on. Give me the key, I am Key? Is he saying he is the key? Or is he saying, like, I'm Key, I'm important, I'm key to the story? I'm getting some ideas why this scene was cut. In any case, Elise's screams wake up Tucker and Specs. And I assume the original plan was for this scene to lead into the one of her telling them about the Garza call and all her childhood trauma. The next morning, despite Elise telling Tucker and Specs she has to do this job alone, she steps outside to find the boys have a new spectral sightings van ready to go. Of course, they're going to join her. I knew there was a reason I liked these guys. They drive to Five Keys, New Mexico, past the prison, and to Elise Rainier's childhood home, now owned by Ted Garza, played by Kirk Acevedo, who I immediately recognized from Oz. Guess after all that prison time, if he's not going to be in a prison, he's more comfortable living right outside one. Actually, the real reason he was cast is interesting. He apparently auditioned for Pennywise in the new It movies. He didn't get the part, but one else saw his audition tape and was so impressed, he cast him for the last key. Not just as Ted Garza, but also wanted him to play the key demon himself. Partly. The demon is played by Javier Botet, who was the crooked man in The Conjuring 2, the hobo in It, and a lot of other monsters in a lot of other movies. As for Acevedo, the idea was for Botet to play the demon's body while they CGI'd Kirk's face onto it. But that ended up costing too much money. It also feels unnecessary to me considering how much makeup and effects are required to pull off the keyhole for a face look. Plus, the demon is always shrouded in darkness, so I'm not sure how much Kirk's face would have come through in the performance anyway. They get to the house, but before they go inside, Elise brought some clothes for Tucker and Specs to wear. Some of it belonged to Jack. It's very important to her. Wait a minute. So they get out of the van. They're standing in front of Garza's house. And now she wants them to strip down and change? They don't just put shirts and ties on either. They change pants too. Tucker ends up in suspenders, for God's sake. And what if Garza sees them? How much is he going to trust these Ghostbusters if he peeks outside and sees Tucker in his driveway tripping over his pants around his ankles? Finally, they meet Garza.
She's psychic. We're a sidekick.
Where's that?
She's psychic. We're a sidekick.
It's silly, but feels appropriate to Tucker, and his delivery of the dumb line with such pride and sincerity makes it fun. After that, it's the usual walk around the house while Garza tells them about the weird stuff that's been happening, mostly in the upstairs bedroom. Acevedo does a good job as the haunted and nervous homeowner who needs help. Lynn Shay does a great job as always, here as a haunted Elise with a dash of melancholy, remembering all the awful things that happened here. That night, they outfit Elise with a small camera and leave her in the house alone to draw the spirits out. She explores the old place and under the old bed finds her brother's whistle that went missing almost 60 years ago. There are more creaks, footsteps, and dark figures which lead Elise downstairs. On the camera, they spot a woman, though she is not visible to Elise. Elise reaches out in front of her and feels nothing. Suddenly, that woman is behind her, screaming, "Help her!" I do generally find the best way to ask a favor is to sneak up behind someone in the dark and shout in their ear at the top of your lungs. The ghost woman snatches the whistle from around Elise's neck. After that, Garza is oddly upset. Why did Elise come downstairs? He told her the problem was upstairs in the bedroom. Elise explains she was led down here by the ghost of a woman, a ghost she's seen before, years ago when she was 16. Elise spotted her in the laundry room and tried speaking with her, until Gerald shut it down. There's no one there. Time for punishment. Gerald grabs his cane, but Elise has had enough. She grabs her father's head and punishes him instead by showing him a vision of his own future death. Heart attack in the bathroom. At least he dies doing what he loves, clutching his arm in pain while grabbing at the shower curtain. Hey, not everyone is into the same things. Elise runs away from home after that. Good for her getting away from Gerald, but she also abandons her brother Christian, which might add some texture to her character. Guess she isn't so perfect after all. But I never find it believable that after all this time, Elise never tried to reach out. That does not seem in character for her at all. If it's meant to develop her character and show some of the imperfections in her that we all have, the movie does not wrestle with it at all. Later she'll apologize, but she's essentially let off the hook without ever having to own up to why she ignored him and his family for 5 or 6 decades. The next day, Elise, Tucker, and Specs head to a diner she used to frequent with her brother back in the day, and wouldn't you know it, seconds later, her brother's 2 daughters stroll in. When Christian walks in too, he is nothing but angry at Elise for scaring him with stories of a monster behind a red door when they were kids, before abandoning him to a real monster, their father. He demands she leave him and his family alone. It's pretty convenient that in the last 60 years her brother never left town, neither did his 2 daughters, and they all happen to visit this diner right now. One of the Insidious franchise's secret weapons has always been the balancing act of horror and drama. But in The Last Key, where so much feels inauthentic, it's less drama, more melodrama, furthered by the compression of too many dramatic boiling points into too short a time frame, with no simmering or build-up. In the flashback, we learn Elise abandoned her brother, and just 4 minutes later, we have the tearful reunion and rejection in the present. But Lin Shaye and Bruce Davison as Christian, who I mainly remember as the guy who turned into water in X-Men, both elevate the material with strong performances, while Lee Wanell and Angus Sampson stand there. After Christian storms off, his daughters stay behind. They're more understanding. Dad never told them about his past or about Elise, which she understands given what he went through, but Elise has something for them. A still frame they printed of the footage her camera took last night. An image of that whistle. She tells them to give it to their father. And Tucker tries to kiss Melissa before she leaves. At least Josh sniffing Renee in Chapter 2 had an excuse. He was possessed by a serial killer. Melissa and Imogen also take all of this pretty well. They're so excited to meet Elise. They're hugging her, but have remarkably few questions about who she is or where she's been all this time, why Christian never mentioned her. They also don't raise an eyebrow when Tucker and Specs boast about how they're ghost hunters. And when Elise hands Melissa a creepy photo of a whistle taken in their father's childhood home, she isn't like, "What is this?" She just goes, "I'm so happy to meet you," and hugs her. If my dad started screaming at an old woman about a red door and a monster, I'd look at my brother as like, well, to be fair, my dad does that all the time, so it's not a fair comparison, but I imagine in a normal family, the 2 siblings would look at each other like, dude, what the hell? Let's get out of here. Not, oh, I love whistles, you're so awesome, you hunt demons, that's so rad. They don't feel like real characters. They take everything in stride, including Tucker and Specs' awkward attempts at flirting, which is pretty much all they do the rest of the movie. That night, it's back to the house for more investigation. Tonight, Elise is looking for a metaphysical red door. Christian's mention of it while yelling at her reminded Elise that the entity which killed her mother came through a red door, similar to the red elevator doors from the Quinn Brenner case. Passing through it took Elise deeper into the further. Tonight, Elise tries reaching out to the ghost woman who took her whistle and said help her. As though in answer to her, they hear the whistle, and they follow it to the basement, where the sound is clearly coming from behind the wall. Peeling at the wall reveals hidden, not a metaphysical door, but an actual bona fide door, and behind that door, the whistle and a woman chained up. A ghost woman? Elise approaches cautiously when the ghost woman from last night screams again, help her! It's around then Elise realizes the woman in chains is not a ghost. She's alive.
I'll bring the chain.
No, you won't.
Garza pulls a gun on them, then puts it in his own mouth after pleading, he's in my head. It seems he kidnapped this woman, but that line, he's in my head, implies he's crazy, hearing voices, or perhaps there's more to this. In any case, Garza does not pull the trigger on himself, but instead heads upstairs after hearing Specs walking around up there.
Is that your friend? Is your friend?
he is good at delivering those lines with a weirdly calm menace. I'd be so curious to see his Pennywise audition. In his fight with Garza, Specs uses some clever misdirection. He puts his own glasses on one of those drinking bird toys. You know the kind Homer used to do his job when he gained a bunch of weight to get on disability leave? That catches Garza's attention and gets him to look the wrong way so Specs can bonk him on the head, then crush his skull under a heavy bookcase. Way to go, Specs. I mean, you probably didn't have to kill him. Looked like he was pretty much out cold after the first bash. But much better showing than you'll have a few months from now in Chapter 2, where you're nearly bested by a decaying Josh possessed by an elderly serial killer. There's a deleted scene right before all this, where Elise remembers the red door while they're outside the diner, and then before they start the investigation, first she sits with Tucker, Specs, and Garza for a quick prayer session, where Tucker awkwardly says, "Amen" instead of "Amen." Yeah, I think by movie 4 they've run out of Tucker and Specs material, sadly. The prayer angle is interesting. Other than the brief appearance of a priest in the first movie, there's little direct mention of conventional religion or faith in these movies. It'd be interesting to see how astral projection and the further have altered or deepened Elise's faith. But the deleted scene adds little on that front, and the red door thing is re-explained just before they start their nightly investigation, so it's mostly redundant and made sense to cut. Except, in that deleted scene, Elise tells Garza to stay in his room tonight and don't leave no matter what he hears. Without that line, you might watch the investigation and wonder where is he during it all, because you imagine he'd be curious what they're up to, especially once you find out he's kidnapped someone. You think he'd want to be there to steer them away from the basement. Like, the basement? Why would you want to go down there? Who's ever heard of a ghost in a basement? Are you crazy? Well, Garza, according to a survey by Groundworks.com, the basement is consistently rated by homeowners as the scariest room in their house. Who 4% chose the kitchen? Who's afraid of the kitchen? That's where food comes from. Outside, the police show up, and Elise looks up at the window to see the ghost woman staring back at her. Now we know what that ghost woman was up to. She was telling Elise to help her, as in help Mara Jennings, the kidnapped woman in the basement, and she stole the whistle to give Mara so she could call for help. I do appreciate when the Insidious franchise mixes real physical crimes with the supernatural, like the corpses they found in the Bride in Black's murder room in Chapter 2. Occasionally mixing the physical in with the metaphysical helps to keep things from getting too predictable. It allows for moments like, oh my god, a ghost! Wait, that's no ghost, it's a real person. The next day, after seeing the picture of that whistle, Christian rushes to the house, now a crime scene, telling his daughters, "I have to do this. You don't understand. I have to find the whistle." Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It seems like he wants to bury the past and stay away from the trauma, but now he needs to find that whistle so badly he's willing to enter a crime scene. Even if we buy that motivation, why in the world would he assume the whistle is there? It's a photo of Elise holding it in her hand. Wouldn't he assume she is now in possession of that whistle? Not that she found it in the house, took a picture, then hid it in there for him to find like a bizarre scavenger hunt. While he and his daughters search the house, Elise is questioned at the station by the cops. Suddenly, a grotesque figure appears behind the officer, Melissa, with her eyes milky white, a small slit in her throat like someone stuck a key in there. Melissa screams, so does Elise. It seems to be a vision or warning. Her niece is in trouble. Sure enough, at the house, Melissa hears her father's voice call to her, "Down here, honey, I found the whistle." Of course, it isn't really him. It's a demon luring her to the basement. Oh, thank God. For a second, I thought she might have to go to the kitchen. Down there, the sound of keys clattering near her grandfather's old prison uniforms. She reaches for those keys, only to find they're connected to fingers. Hey, could be worse. Instead of key fingers, if she'd gone to the kitchen, she might have met salad fingers.
The feeling of rust against my salad fingers is almost orgasmic.
The key demon flings her across the room. She lands on the ground, unable to move, while Keyface crawls over to her, inserts a key into her throat, and turns it. The click silences her. He shushes her, then he cuts a small hole a little lower, closer to her chest, then inserts another key and turns it. This time, the click puts her in a coma, or at least it puts her body in a coma. As for her spirit, You guessed it, she's in the further. This was one of the more effective sequences for me, similar to Insidious Chapter 3 when the man who can't breathe tosses Quinn off the bed and she's forced to lie there while the demon methodically removes all sources of light before hurting her. Here, Melissa is stuck while it slowly makes its way toward her. They do a good job keeping him out of focus, so you only get a sense of his overall figure, which is clearly not quite human, and he does the classic jittery movements that make creatures out of horror even more uncanny, all powered by Javier Botet's performance, who is so good at those weird, not quite human movements. Finally, the idea of sticking a key into a person like that, it's the sort of surreal imagery I love to see in these movies. By now, Elise has rushed back to the house, and with her help, they find Melissa downstairs, unconscious, with a chain around her neck. They quickly call for an ambulance. While they wheel her in, Imogen asks Elise how she knew where to find Melissa, what happened to her. Elise answers, "There's something evil in that house, and I let it into this world. I think it made Ted Garza do what he did, and it's taken your sister's spirit, and I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna finish it tonight." Wow, Elise, that is a lot to take in. How is Imogen gonna react to all this? Oh, she has literally no expression on her face at all. In fact, I'm not sure she's paying attention. Am I crazy, or is she clearly not looking at Elise here? I think she was given the wrong eyeline mark, or something was off in the angle, because it really looks like she's staring into space, or just looking past Elise. But once Elise drops that truth grenade and walks away, Imogen calls out,
I can see things too.
You know, when I actually look at them instead of staring into space. Okay, sorry, I'll stop. When Imogen was a little girl, she went to sleep and floated out of her window all the way to their elderly neighbor's house. Then that neighbor told her she was leaving this world and going on to the next. And that night, the neighbor did, in fact, die. It seems Imogen has inherited her aunt's psychic abilities, a revelation that would land with more impact if Imogen was an actual character, but prior to this scene, she has so little presence in the movie. Here's a compilation of all her dialogue in the movie before this scene.
Imogen, good for you. You got out. We just got here. We looked everywhere.
14 words. To be fair, you can make a case for 15 if you count this. Not that dialogue is the only way to flesh out characters, but Melissa and Imogen are so thinly developed while they're meant to play key roles. Melissa as the one in peril, and Imogen as the unexpected psychic here to lend a hand. And it's nothing against the actresses, Spencer Locke and Kit Goldsmith. It seems they just weren't given enough to do in the script. When Elise says she used to live here a long time ago, Imogen says, "Good for you, you got out." It's the stuck in a small town cliche, and it isn't developed at all. Why do they feel trapped here? Why do they want to leave? Why haven't they? Also, do you think the actresses were partly cast thanks to their last names? Spencer Locke, as in a lock you unlock with a key, and Kit Goldsmith, Goldsmith as in someone who works with gold, perhaps to make keys? Christian heads for the ambulance to join Melissa. Imogen is going to stay. She's going to help. Inside, Elise goes over the plan. They need to get the attention of all the spirits in this house. So she sends Specs and Imogen upstairs to find a particular Bible Garza held dear to him. Elise and Tucker will head down to the fallout shelter. Upstairs.
So why do you guys dress like that?
Not, is my sister gonna be okay? What took her exactly? A demon or something? What the hell is going on here? Instead, it's just, why do you guys dress like such nerds? Maybe the more appropriate dialogue was lost in the deleted scenes. Let me have a look.
Have you ever been hit on by a ghost?
Okay. Downstairs, Elise senses something behind a vent. The ghost lady wants her to look in there. They find an old dress slip. Touching it provides Elise a vision of the past. She sees her father, Gerald, with a shackled woman in the hidden room of his fallout shelter. The woman manages to free herself and stumbles upstairs into the laundry room, where a 16-year-old Elise sees her. Gerald tells Elise there's no one there. He turns to punish her before Elise gives him a vision of his future death and runs away from home. It turns out the woman Elise saw in the laundry room was not a ghost, but a real person, a captive of her father. Elise runs away and Gerald beats that woman to death. Only then does she become a ghost. It all starts to make sense. This key-face demon made Garza kidnap someone and hold them captive. But that wasn't the first time. It did the same to her father, making him kidnap someone, this woman, Anna. Decades later, Anna begged for Elise's help and stole the whistle to save Mara from suffering the same fate. There is something so clever about that twist. We're so used to "they've been dead the whole time" twists, that the reversal, that ghost you saw, actually that person was alive the whole time, except now they're dead, and now they are a ghost. It's unexpected and satisfying as a payoff. It does raise a lot of questions. Specs sort of murdered Garza, and turns out maybe he didn't deserve it. Not his fault he was possessed by a demon. More than that, Elise's entire traumatic childhood pinned on her father. Now we have to wonder, how much is he to blame? Was he already a piece of crap, and the demon just took advantage of that to make him even worse? Or is Elise's dad a tragic figure? Maybe he would have been a great dad if not for Keyface. Rest assured, the movie won't tackle any of these questions. Suddenly, they notice a thread from the dress slip reaching into the vent and tugging in that direction, as though beckoning them to look further.
Until I free her from wherever he put her, she's trapped in the dark.
Elise crawls into the vent and finds Anna's skull and belongings. Behind that, she finds more bones and belongings. It wasn't just Anna or Mara, there were previous victims too. As she goes through the old bags and briefcases, she opens one to find Keyface. A good fake out because the movie keeps having sounds that draw the audience and Elise's attention to the darkness deeper in the tunnel. You expect that she'll open a bag so the flap obscures her vision, and then when she closes it, surprise, there's a demon in front of her. I didn't expect it to come out of the bag itself, so it definitely made me jump. He grabs Elise and pulls her into the further, where she comes face to face with her child self. Remember in the movie's opening when child Elise first opened the door and her eyes rolled into the back of her head while her mom was hanged? Turns out, while child Elise was standing there, she spent a couple of minutes in the further and came face to face with her older self. That older self now offers a few words of advice. No matter what your daddy says, you have to go on doing what you do. Never be afraid of your ability. Seemingly, that means Elise becomes who she is in these movies thanks to a time loop. Her older self, offering words of encouragement to her younger self, setting little Elise on the right path. And her younger self offers some advice too. Daddy doesn't mean it when he yells at me. He's scared of the man with the keys. He's the one controlling it all. He's the one who opens all the doors. He opens all the doors? Older Elise asks. Yes, young Elise replies. The man with the keys said I'm more powerful than I know. He says he wants me to help him open every door. He says he'll do anything it takes to get me. He's standing right behind you. Keyface grabs Elise as she yells for her younger self to leave this place. Now, older Elise is trapped in the further, like Melissa. In the real world, her body goes limp. The conversation with her younger self feels unnecessary. Elise already seemed rebellious against her father. Audrey was already encouraging her, saying Daddy doesn't understand, but your gift is special. So I don't think we needed the added motivation of older Elise encouraging younger Elise. It feels like extra complexity just so they can say, hey, another time travel twist. Also, seconds before this, young Elise was dumb enough to open the door and let the demon out to kill her own mom. Why now is she suddenly lucid to every fact? The demon is controlling Daddy. He's behind everything. He wants to open all the doors, etc. The awareness makes her seem unrealistically intelligent and mature for her age, given what we saw previously. And it further undercuts older Elise's words of wisdom. Like, child Elise is good. She doesn't need this advice. Child Elise's whole re-explanation of the demon's plot to open all the doors also feels unnecessary. Like the filmmakers are worried that we're going to forget about that core motive, opening all the doors. But the thing is, the movie itself forgot about it anyway. At no point is there a hint of, oh god, a bunch of doors might open, and if that happens, that'll be really bad. The focus has instead been on this demon that apparently turns people into kidnappers and abusers, which feels like an entirely different motive than, I want to open all the doors. It feels like the movie could have just been about the demon that makes people kidnap people, instead of, you gotta stop this demon, he makes people kidnap people. Oh, that is bad. Okay, I'm definitely going to kill this demon. Wait, there's more. He also makes them abuse their own children. Oh God, yeah, that's all terrible. I'm gonna go stop this demon right now. Wait, one more thing. What? He wants to open doors. Really? But, what does that mean? Is that a bad thing? I think so. Okay, well, either way, the kidnapping and abuse stuff is obviously a problem. So, I'm gonna go kill this demon now. Cool, just what? Just don't forget about the doors, too. I won't. In the deleted scenes, there are expanded versions of both the upstairs and downstairs sequences, which pack in a couple more scares, plus another twist. First, downstairs. They look around the bomb shelter. There's a little prequel moment where Tucker finds a gas mask.
I could make something with this.
Setting up the gas mask thing Elise wears in the seance from the first movie, and Elise tells a story about this boy she liked, Alan, while growing up. Dad wasn't happy when he caught them kissing, so he forced Elise to stop bathing and brushing her teeth, made her work the garden but not clean up or change. She smelled so bad the kids at school started calling her Smellies, including Alan. In the mirror, she spots Ghost Anna behind her, leading her to the vent, instead of in the final cut where Elise just suddenly senses something back there. Makes sense to me this was all cut, considering Melissa was just kidnapped into the further. Any time spent monologuing feels inappropriate. Like Elise, talking about your childhood trauma is great and all, but Melissa is trapped in the further. Can we focus on that? Upstairs, the deleted scenes are a bit more elaborate. Specs hears a whistle, so he gets up to check it out. Imogen asks if he's ever been hit on by a ghost. Specs says not yet, then walks off toward the whistle sound. Meanwhile, Imogen finds the Bible, and in it, nonsensical drawings and notes, an image of a red door, which turns out to be a folded paper. Unfolding it reveals a sketch of Imogen as she is right now, as in it shows her sitting over the Bible in a closet, holding this very paper, and behind her, behind the hanging clothes, something demonic. The door closes, locking her inside. The something demonic reaches out and grabs her with his key fingers. I bet part of the reason this was cut is that it's a little confusing. I had to stare at that sketch for a while to realize it was depicting Imogen herself and effectively telling her, there's a demon behind you. If you're just watching this movie normally, with how quickly the scene moves, I think most people would just be like, what the hell was that drawing supposed to be? Anyway, oh no, a demon! By now, Tucker and Elise are done in the basement, and they help Specs get through the doors to rescue Imogen. They run downstairs. There's a thud at the front door. Elise reaches out to the knob and is suddenly flung into the further, where she finds Gerald sitting on his favorite chair, watching his favorite show on TV, assuming his favorite show is clips of Elise's mother hanging dead in the basement. Gerald reveals to Elise that when she entered the further for the Quinn Brenner case, he saw her.
Imagine my surprise when I saw you wandering through the mist.
That's when he thought he could have his little girl back. It was him who brought her to this house, presumably implying he's the one who haunted Garza and got him to call Elise for help and bring her back here. Of course, we know it's really Keyface behind it all. Finally, dead Garza appears and drags Elise into the dark. Just like in the final cut, she's unconscious in the real world, trapped in the further. She just gets there a different way. And this deleted scene adds that little twist. Turns out that in Insidious Chapter 3, Elise's father was watching her, leading into this movie. Tucker and Specs lay Elise's body on the couch, while her spirit is trapped in the further. Someone has to go in there to help, but who? Imogen volunteers. After all, she's astral projected before. Someone just has to hypnotize her. Specs fumbles the process until Tucker takes over. And like that, she's in another realm, dark and foggy, with a TV in the corner, mostly showing static, occasionally images of Keyface. Anna, the friendly ghost, finds her and leads the way to finding Elise.
I'll help you.
She leads her to a further version of the nearby prison. Inside, a red prison door. Behind it, a metaphysical prison where Keyface has many souls captive, including Elise and Melissa. In the movie's opening, Elise asked her brother Christian if he ever wonders where prisoners go after the electric chair. Looks like she has her answer now. Soon, Keyface shows Elise his other prisoner, one he's had for a long time. her father, Gerald. He steps into her cell, a metaphysical recreation of her childhood bedroom, and Gerald places his hands against the wall, the same place she used to press them when he beat her. Now the demon hands Elise her father's cane and invites her to take revenge. She does, beating him repeatedly. As she strikes him, Keyface seems to be in ecstasy, like the anger is giving him power. Imogen calls out to Elise, and that snaps her out of it. She looks at the demon and tells him, "My father was your puppet. I am not going to feed you with hatred anymore, demon."
You can fucking starve!
And the demon screams, then takes Imogen prisoner instead. He returns with Imogen and Melissa in chains. As Elise begs, "Let them go, take me instead." He swats Elise away, then stabs Melissa and smacks Imogen. IRL Melissa goes into cardiac arrest. Finally, the demon tries to stab Elise. In a deleted scene, first you see his arm turn into a blade like the T-1000 in Terminator 2, but not as cool. Except Elise's father gets in the way, so he is stabbed instead. He says, "I'm sorry," then fades away. Like Spider-Man in Infinity War, but not as cool. Can't believe the Last Key ripped off the Avengers. Wait a minute. Last Key came out 3 months before Infinity War? Hey! By the way, sorry Gerald, it doesn't count as a heroic sacrifice if you're already dead and all you've done is effectively freed your soul from a demonic prison. Not to mention, all Gerald did was slow the demon down for like 2 seconds. As soon as he's gone, the monster is upon Elise again. It's like if someone is shot 5 times and you heroically take just one of the bullets. Like, yeah, you took a bullet for him, but they're still dead. With Elise's father out of the way, Keyface goes after her again, except this time, instead of stabbing her with the T-1000 blade, he uses his key finger like he did on Melissa to silence her. Then he goes to insert the next key, but first, Anna handed something to Imogen earlier, that whistle. She tosses it to Elise, but she can't reach it in time, so she grabs the broken cane and stabs it into Keyface, buying her a few more seconds to get that whistle and blow it. Like that, her mother Audrey shows up and smacks the demon away. These so-called benevolent ghosts are so particular. In Chapter 3, Quinn needs help from her mom, but she's like, "Nuh-uh, not until you find my secret note in your diary first." Or Elise's mom, yeah, sure, I'll help, if you blow my whistle." And if it's so easy for them to destroy these demons, little more than a flick of the wrist, why do they keep waiting until loved ones are in peril? Get out of heaven or wherever you are and shoo these demons off. Do your job. Anyway, the implication seems to be that the demon feeds off hate and anger, so it causes people to kidnap people. Presumably the victims hate their captors. This demon must hate Stockholm Syndrome. In particular, the demon wants Elise to give in to hate, because that will not only give him power, but specifically give him her power of opening doors. It would have been nice if we got a hint of what that means, other than Keyface twirling his fingers around in ecstasy. Like maybe while Elise beats her father, some doors start to open, and we see demons behind them, giving us the idea that her hatred will allow him to free the monsters. Also, it would have been a lot more satisfying to see Elise give up her hate if it wasn't so easy. It's not a complex understanding that her father was an awful man who caused her a lot of pain, while also acknowledging that holding on to anger is self-destructive in its own way. Instead, it's, "Oh, he was possessed. It wasn't his fault. So I can still be mad, but just at the demon instead of my dad." To be fair, there is that question of how much is Gerald really absolved. Like I said earlier, maybe he was already awful. Maybe the demon just made him worse. But the movie gives us nothing to work with on that front. Also, remember when Keyface went to attack Elise until Dad stepped in the way? Once Dad was dead, why didn't Keyface just immediately stab Elise like he originally planned? Instead, he did the key thing again, which is also confusing. Previously, the first key turn silenced Melissa, and the second one trapped her in the further. With Elise, the first one silences her. What will the second one do? She's already in the further. Overall, I like Keyface's design. I just think his machinations feel less enigmatic, as perhaps expected of a demon, more just vague and convoluted. If you do want to know more about Keyface, by the way, in one of the Blu-ray featurettes, Unlocking the Keys, one of the executive producers says this.
Keyface was a very old prisoner who was wronged, and that's why he haunts this property.
So we get a small taste of backstory. To exit the further, Elise, Melissa, and Imogen find a red door and walk through it, which leads to a familiar scene. They see a boy named Dalton on a ladder in an attic. He falls off it and looks at them. Oops, wrong way. They quietly back out and leave for another door, leaving this one open. The moment of Dalton falling off the ladder is a scene we witnessed in the original movie. We knew he looked off camera at something, now we know what he saw. Elise peeking through a red door. The next day, Dalton falls into his coma, taken by the lipstick-faced demon. Some have speculated that this movie retcons the original, essentially saying that it was Elise's fault that the demon got Dalton. After all, she opened a red door leading to his attic and irresponsibly left it open, perhaps allowing the lipstick-faced demon to escape. Phil Owen of The Rap actually ran the theory by 1L, who responded, "I thought it would be interesting to play upon the idea that Elise herself had some hand in that first film by opening doors and running through." So the theory might have some merit. The deleted scenes also had a few more scares in the further. Elise would have been startled by a wind-up monkey, which is pretty hilarious as is, because I assume they intended to add more audio-visual effects to make it much more startling. But as an incomplete deleted scene, her reaction is such an overreaction. Stop. Imogen and Anna, while looking for the prison, would have tried one door, only to stumble upon a mother stabbing her own baby in the crib. At least Anna has the sense to shut that door when they walk away. In another instance, Imogen finds a prisoner in the electric chair, seemingly doomed to repeat his own execution on loop. He tells Imogen to go to hell. I'd probably be pretty perturbed too. Then there's an alternate expanded ending, which is basically the same, but longer and in a different order. In the alternate version, the demon never gets on top of Elise to do his key trick. Instead, right after Dad sacrifices himself, Imogen tosses her the whistle, and she calls Mom for the rescue immediately. Except in this version, after Mom swats Keyface away, he immediately comes back and only now stabs Melissa, instead of prior to the whistle blow. Similarly, Elise stabbing Keyface in the face with her dad's cane happens now instead of while the demon is attempting his key trick, and it kills him.
Get a breath mint, asshole.
Before he explodes into a pile of keys. Makes sense. With the demon defeated, Elise frees all the prisoners. Wait, she frees all the prisoners who died by electric chair? Is that a good idea? According to that executive producer, Keyface used to be a prisoner who was wronged. Isn't that true of all these prisoners too? I would feel pretty wronged if after I died in prison, I was still in prison. Did she just release like 25 more Keyfaces? One of them menacingly points the way and whispers, "This way," and they exit through a red door. Okay, back to the actual ending. After accidentally walking in on Dalton, they find the right way out. Elise has a tearful goodbye with her mother. Imogen and Elise wake up in front of Tucker and Specs. They all head for the hospital, where Melissa has woken up too. Elise gives Christian back his whistle, and after all these years, he finally forgives her. Makes sense. She abandoned him when they were kids, and now she also nearly got his daughters trapped in an extra-dimensional prison for all eternity. You know, so they can call it even or whatever. Specs makes out with Imogen. Who wrote this movie again? Elise walks out with Tucker and Specs, telling them how she always thought she was afraid of dying, but now she realizes she was really just afraid of dying before she truly had a family again. Now I do, she smiles at them, and admittedly, I am still charmed by Lynn Shay and her character's relationship to these two lovable bozos. Later at home, Elise has nightmares of the Lambert residence. She sees Josh, Renee, and Dalton, and Lipstick-Faced Demon popping up in Dalton's window. She wakes up to a call from Josh's mother, Lorraine. This leads directly into the first movie, because this is the call Lorraine makes partway through the movie, which gets Elise, Tucker, and Specs involved in the case. I appreciate the final shot of the movie, Elise sitting contemplatively in bed after the call, while some classic melancholic Insidious score plays. It gives the ending a tragic feel, knowing Elise has just accepted her final case, the one that will kill her. At least she'll die with a family. Just one question left. Why is it called the last key? What does that actually mean? I get the key concept, but why last key? As if the demon has most of the keys but just needs one more or something. Or maybe they hoped including the word last in the title would make people think this is a finale of sorts and sell more tickets. It did achieve a series high at the box office, at least until Red Door came out. Overall, The Last Key is for me the weakest entry in the franchise, or close to it. In several interviews, Whannell talked about how the Insidious well felt kinda dry, so it took him a while to find material to put on the page for this one, 6 or 7 months, and I think that shows. The movie struggles to decide on who or what Keyface really is and what he wants. It struggles to provide its new characters with anything meaningful to do, and while it sets up an arc for Elise, the unresolved trauma with her father, abandoning her brother, none of it is resolved in a logical or satisfying way. She admits, "I never should have left you, Christian," but there's no scratching under the surface of why she never tried to reach out all this time, and it all wraps up so cleanly with no real work. It's just, the demon is defeated, and therefore my personal problems are resolved too. Though I still love Lin Shaye as Elise and appreciate that she was given a lot more to do in this movie. Despite my issues with the story, her performance does elevate every scene she's in, and you just have to give the filmmakers props for allowing such an unusual protagonist for this genre to anchor the whole franchise. I'm so happy that despite her character's death, they are including her again in the upcoming 6th entry, Out of the Further. But that is for another day. Until then, let's close the door on the Further, or leave it open, whatever. What's the worst that could happen?